So my video's late because I'm doing this thing where like I have a social life. Crazy times. Crazy times. The question's supposed to be about like a book, movie, piece of music, something that changed our lives, which for me was last week, so, you know, but I'm going to attempt to actually answer the question this week, and so to pick one book for me is pretty much impossible because books were the foundation of my young life. I discovered who I was through them, I discovered who other people were through them, and they were where I went when things were difficult, they were where I went when I wanted to be happier, they were where I went when I wanted to experience something other than being a child. And the books we read early are important, they are formative, they make a lot of difference in your life. The first book I read, ever, out myself, was Cinderella. Now this is not the actual book that I first read Cinderella in, but it has a very similar version of the Cinderella, the fairy tale. Here are a couple of snippets. Once there was a girl who was as good as she was beautiful. Skip, skip, skip. Here comes the important part. All the fine ladies of the court tried on the slipper, but it did not fit any of them. The slipper fitted Cinderella perfectly, then Cinderella pulled out the other one and put it on, and blah blah blah, and everybody knew who she was, and she was beautiful. And she became princess and lived happily ever after, and the world was bright. Yeah. That story is a lie. The idea that if you are down on your luck and cry about it, somebody comes around, hits you with a magic wand, get it? A magic wand, and your life gets better. Ridiculous. The history of Cinderella is that it comes, I mean, almost from ancient times. There's stories that have the threads of Cinderella going back centuries, but the most heavily influenced version on the one that we all know today as the Disney version, you know, When You Wish Upon a Star and all that. Anyway, the biggest precursor of Cinderella is, and say it with me, Grimm's fairy tale. Listen to what really happens in Cinderella, the Grimm's version. I'm gonna skip most of it. The two sisters were delighted, for they had both beautiful feet. The eldest went into the room intending to try on the slipper, and her mother stood beside her, but her great toe prevented her from getting it on. Her foot was too long. This is so gross. And the girl cut off her toe, forced her foot into the slipper, and stifled her pain. Yeah, like that's gonna be possible. And went out to the prince. Second sister tries on the shoe, but her heel won't fit, so our good mother hands her a knife and says, cut the heel off your foot. So then the prince gives her this slipper, which is by now must be just soaked in the blood of the cut up feet of her stepsisters. And has her try it on, and of course it fits. So at the end, this is amazing. That is Cinderella. So anyway, what does this have to do with me? Well, Cinderella is about, as Cheryl once said very eloquently, it's about being seen. Cinderella is always about being seen. It imparts the message that you must put on something pretty in order to do well in the world. That you will be not seen for your inner beauty until you have something of outer beauty. Which is ridiculous. Can I just put that out there right now? Ridiculous and criminal to be spreading to young girls and boys. Ridiculous. And I don't know how much it affected me, really, growing up, but I have to think that it was formative. The Cinderella that we all know and sing songs about and go to Disney World about is beloved because it's a tale of triumph, but it's got a sinister underlying message, which is that you're only as valuable as the things you're wearing. You cannot be seen unless you have something pretty on the outside. I'm gonna say it again. Ridiculous. And so I think the thing that's really important for us as we end out this week of talking about stories and the things that have affected us as we've grown is to remember that A, Cinderella is ridiculous and you shouldn't tell your kids the story. It's a terrible story. It's horrible. It's not about overcoming adversity. It's about praying for other people to fix your problems, and that never works. So That's one. Two is that there's 100 versions of every story, and a story is only what it means to you. And it could mean anything. What's your favorite story, and what does it mean to you, and how has it changed since you first heard it? Tell me in my boobs. See you guys next week. Bye.